Hi, welcome to Crime Clueless. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
I'm Laura.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Kayla.
We are in spooky season and we have a mystery for you today.
Exciting.
I like these spooky season ones. They're fun.
Yes,
My
they
favorite.
are really fun. I've got a few more good ones. So,
Not that they all don't have some kind of spookiness to them. Maybe just not in the same way.
yeah. No, it does feel like a different vein almost of stories.
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
We love spooky season over here.
Yes, we
We do.
My toddler was so excited for October, and I was like, "Oh yeah, October's tomorrow." And she's like, "It's Halloween." I was like, "No, just October." And she's like, "So Halloween?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, it's Halloween every day in October."
Halloween
Yeah,
season.
She's not wrong.
Yeah.
Totally.
She did tell us she wanted to go trick or treat yesterday, though, and we had to tell her no one would be ready for her, but that's okay.
That's very disappointing.
Fair.
Bring her
Yes,
to my
it
house
is.
next time.
Yes,
I'll give her candy.
Yeah. Let her practice.
Let her practice.
she's so cute. People would probably give her candy, but
They'd be like, why are you here?
we don't want to be the weirdos in the
Just text
in
me.
the neighborhood.
yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
too far from you. Hey, we're coming trick-or-treating again, so be prepared.
Her costume shirt did come in today. So
Oh, you found one?
I bought one off Etsy.
Nice.
Is
She's
it
going to
good?
be Abby from K-pop Demon Hunters. So
I love it.
she's very
Are
excited.
you do you have the pink wig?
I actually found pink hair,
Spray?
like gel
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Like a color paste.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good.
I gotta figure out my kids'
Those-
costumes.
Yeah. Mine wants to be one of the strawberry shortcake characters.
Oh,
I love it.
It keeps changing which one though.
makes
So-
it hard to buy
yeah.
something.
I know.
My toddlers wanted to be Abby for like 2 straight months. And we keep asking her, "Oh, do you want to be this? Do you want to be this?" No.
Oh.
Abby also accompanies us everywhere. So he's her best friend.
Mine want to
I
be
like it.
Baby Saja and Rumi.
Yes.
And all the costumes I find are like $60, $70, $80, which I am not willing to pay. So I keep delaying.
I also may be roomy, but I'm going with the casual costume, so I don't have to pay $60 to wear it.
Oh, I know. I don't
plan.
know what to do.
I know they are expensive.
I know.
are. I need a yellow like crocheted hat for her costume, and I
I have
know
some
I'm
yellow
not capable
ones
of doing that. Do you?
from Grandma.
Ooh, okay.
I think Ivy has one. So it's
Let's link up on that.
okay
Okay.
That's a good idea.
after the show.
She does make the best hats. All right. Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Imagine a story so eerie it sounds like fiction. A man vanishes from a tiny mountain town, and months later, another man who's writing a book about the disappearance and is even working in the same exact storefront also disappears without a trace.
Oh, wow. It's writing a story about it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I've never heard this story. My friend sent me like a screenshot of just a quick blurb on it. And then I started researching it and I was like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
This happened in a real life living ghost town. It's called Silver Plume, Colorado. With only about 130, maybe 140 residents nestled in a shadowy canyon, Silver Plume is the kind of place you'd miss if you blinked driving by. It's an old mining village perched 9,100 feet up in the Rockies, a town haunted by a century-old pattern of tragedy and death. In fact, a granite monument on a cliff honors a 19th century mine superintendent who died of a mysterious gunshot wound. Locals still debate if it was suicide or murder back in 1887. That macabre legacy hangs over Silver Plume, where steep mountains cast long shadows. One side of town gets only a few hours of sun just around midday in winter. Against this eerie backdrop, in the late 1980s, 2 inexplicable disappearances turned Silver Plume from a quiet relic of the past into the center of a modern legend. Our tale begins with Tom Young. He was a beloved local bookstore owner, and ends, at least for now, with Keith Reinhard, a journalist who came to Silver Plume seeking inspiration and found himself tangled in Tom's story in a way no one could have foreseen. Both men vanished in the Colorado Rockies 1 year apart under strikingly similar circumstances. The mystery of what happened to them has baffled investigators. It's a story filled with strange coincidences, haunting discoveries, and theories ranging from the mundane to the bizarre. By the end, you might find yourself questioning where the line between fact and fiction really lies in Silver Plume. Let's dive into the strange case of the missing men of Silver Plume. Let's get a sense of the city itself. It's a speck of a town in Clear Creek County, about 45 miles west of Denver in the Rocky Mountains. Founded in 1864 as a mining camp, Silver Plume boomed when rich veins of silver were discovered. But when the silver panic of 1893 hit and silver prices crashed, the town's fortunes faded fast. By the 20th century, most miners and their families had moved on, leaving behind rows of historic wooden buildings and an official population of only around 130, hence the nickname a living ghost town. Tourism kept the town on life support while travelers stopping off of Interstate 70 would stop to glimpse basically an Old West village frozen in time. Silver Plume's rustic charm comes with a side of darkness. Locals will tell you the town is quite literally under a shadow. Those steep canyon walls mean the south end of town doesn't see sunlight for weeks in the winter. It creates a chilly twilight atmosphere even at midday. And then there are the legends. One of the town's enduring stories is the one we mentioned at the beginning. The man's name was Clifford Griffin. He was a mine superintendent who allegedly completed suicide in 1887, walking off into the night and shooting himself on the mountainside above town. A stone memorial to Griffin still looms over Silver Plume, and for over a century, people have whispered about whether his death was really by his own hand or if something more sinister happened. Let's fast forward about 100 years. Tom Young was a former high school teacher and a veteran of the Special Armed Forces who had moved to Silver Plume in 1969. By the late 1980s, Tom was in his early 60s and lived a quiet, somewhat solitary life on the south side of Pendleton Mountain, the darker side of town where the winter sun rarely reaches. He never married, he never had children. His constant companion was his black Labrador retriever, Gus, whom he adored. Tom was a bit of an eccentric, but a friendly face around the village. He ran a small used bookstore on Main Street, which he whimsically named Charing Cross Station after the famous London railway stop. The bookstore, filled with travel books and novels, wasn't a big moneymaker, but it gave Tom a purpose and a social outlet. Locals remember him as this quiet, nice guy, the kind who might seem a little lonely, but was always up for a chat about books or the mountains. He had quirky habits like playing fetch with Gus, using an old baby doll's head as a toy. I could see my dog totally fetching that. He doesn't.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. He'll fetch anything, which is him playing fetch with Gus with the old baby head is a story that locals still chuckle about. No one suspected that anything was wrong. On September 7th, 1987, Tom Young closed up his bookstore as usual, waved goodbye to a few neighbors, and then simply vanished. He and Gus walked out of town and never came back. At first, this didn't raise alarms. Tom had mentioned casually to some friends that he was going on vacation to Europe and would be away for a while. Silver Plume being a laid-back place, people just assumed that Tom had taken off on a trip. After all, like we say a lot, he was an adult and could do as he pleased. It wasn't until about 3 weeks later, when September turned to October, and there was still no word from Tom, that people in the town started wondering. Tom's neighbors realized they hadn't actually seen him or Gus since early September. His bookstore remained closed day after day, a, quote, gone fishing style note about travel on the door. Eventually, in October of 1987, Tom Young was officially reported as a missing person, and the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office began investigating. The investigation turned up some puzzling details. For one, Tom's supposed European vacation appeared to be fiction. His family hadn't heard of any trip. There were no airline tickets or travel plans found. Even stranger, whenever Tom did travel overseas in the past, he always boarded Gus at a kennel. He loved that dog, best friends forever, and he would never leave without arranging care. Every kennel around said Gus was never dropped off. It seemed Tom had deliberately planted a false story about going to Europe and then vanished into thin air.
Interesting.
Yeah. And maybe the two aren't connected. The story, maybe he did want to go, then he disappeared. I'm not sure, but it is weird on the coincidence.
Was his house not like in the town?
It is. I mean, they just thought he went on vacation.
Interesting.
Well, because, there was a sign in the door of his shop that said traveling.
Well, and he told people too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the sign might have just been like a gone fishing, be back tomorrow.
Oh,
I can't find a picture of it,
Okay.
but it just seemed like one of the ones you'd put up at night. But maybe it did have details about traveling.
Interesting.
Yeah, you see both in reporting.
Maybe like out on vacation, be back soon, or I don't know,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah. Months went by with no trace of Tom or Gus. Silver Plume, tiny as it was, had no clues. It was as if the mountains had swallowed the pair whole. Then, on July 31st, 1988, almost 11 months after Tom disappeared, two local hunters were hiking on a remote stretch of Republican Mountain, about a mile and a half outside Silver Plume, when they stumbled on something grim. A human skeleton lying near a tree with a smaller dog skeleton nearby.
Oh,
Mhm.
so sad.
It is.
The remains were identified as Tom Young and his dog Gus. They had been out there in the wild all that time. Each had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Lying on the ground not far from Tom's body was a revolver, a Smith & Wesson .38 Special that was later confirmed to have been purchased by Tom just 4 days before he went missing. Authorities concluded that this was an apparent murder-suicide or some similar scenario. The coroner ruled that Tom had likely shot his dog and then himself on that mountainside.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff's department, after a brief inquiry, officially closed Tom's case as suicide. On the surface, it appeared tragically straightforward. An aging, perhaps depressed, but there's no documentation of that, but I'm sure they're grasping for answers here. Man had ended his life and took his beloved dog with him. And they assumed that maybe he was thinking no one would be around to care for Gus if he was gone. But in Silver Plume, nothing is that straightforward. News of the discovery spread quickly, and many locals were uneasy about this explanation. For one, Tom loved Gus. Friends said they could not imagine him harming that dog under any circumstances. And there were unsettling details found at the scene. Investigators noted pieces of a shredded green tarp around the remains, as if someone had tried to conceal the bodies under a covering. Tom's body was actually under that tarp when it was found. If Tom intended to kill himself and the dog, why would he bother to cover their bodies with a tarp? And how would he do it after the fact?
yeah, that's really strange.
It didn't add up.
He also had kennels he took Gus to. So I feel like someone would have been able to take care of the dog.
I think he would have put the dog in a kennel,
Yeah.
like you said,
Mhm.
or with a friend,
A
somebody.
neighbor.
Yep. Yeah.
Where was the revolver in relationship to them?
It was, quote, close by, but not like in his hand.
Or like right by him?
Yeah.
'Cause I was going to say, I could see the tarp, like if he had wrapped up in it and then did that.
Like through the tarp or laying on the ground under the tarp or yeah.
So he could lay down by his dog or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's bizarre.
Yes.
Uh-huh. The other thing, though, is that police couldn't determine who the tarp belonged to. They said possibly Tom had carried it in a backpack, but I'm not even sure if they found a backpack. And then they couldn't decide why use it that way. Also, the bullet that killed Tom was never conclusively matched to the gun at the scene. Rumors began swirling. Had someone murdered Tom Young and then just staged it to look like he did it? The authorities stuck to the suicide ruling. They found, quote, no evidence of a second shooter, but a cloud of suspicion remained over Tom's death. And to this day, some in Silver Plume still talk about Tom's murder as an open secret, though nothing has ever been proven. In early August 1988, a memorial service for Tom was held. Friends and neighbors mourned the gentle bookseller who had been part of their community. One person attending was Keith Reinhard, a relative newcomer to Silver Plume and someone who had taken a keen interest in Tom's fate even before the bodies were found. Keith had no way of knowing it at the moment, but he was about to step into the same fog of mystery that claimed Tom. Keith arrived in Silver Plume in the summer of 1988. He got there about 9 months after Tom had vanished. Keith was a 49-year-old sports writer from the Chicago suburbs, married with 2 kids, who was feeling the itch for adventure and a change in life. Approaching his 50th birthday, Keith was experiencing a bit of a midlife crisis. By all accounts, he admitted as much to his friends. He had spent 22 years covering high school sports for the Daily Herald, which was a newspaper in Illinois, but he yearned to write something more meaningful, like the great American novel. He also wanted to prove to himself that he could still be bold. He had a fear of heights that he wanted to conquer, and a little bit of a stomach pouch he hoped hiking at high altitudes might trim down. In short, Keith wanted an epic mountain adventure to cap off his 40s. Keith's childhood friend, Ted Parker, ran a cafe in Silver Plume. Ted had moved out to this little Colorado town and often wrote or called Keith about the quirky, slowed-down lifestyle there. To an overworked city journalist like Keith, Silver Plume's isolation sounded like the perfect writer's retreat. So, in mid-1988, Keith took a 3-month leave of absence from his newspaper job and headed to Colorado, temporarily leaving behind his wife, Carolyn, and their children in Illinois. Carolyn, while not thrilled, understood that her husband felt drawn to this mountain quest and I think kind of hoped that he would get it out of his system, come back home refreshed, maybe with his novel finished. Like, go do what you got to do. I'll be here. Holding down the fort. I'll see you in 3 months.
3 months?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I'd not be thrilled about that either.
Yeah, it's a time, right?
Yeah.
That's a long time, especially if you have
It
kids.
is. Yeah.
And is she working? Like all the things,
Right?
that's a lot to think about.
Yeah, agreed.
After 3 days, when my husband's gone for a work trip, I'm like, are you coming home now, please?
Is it over?
Just a long day by yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Especially with a toddler.
Yes.
Keith set up shop, literally, in Silver Plume. He rented a small storefront on Main Street from his buddy Ted Parker in the historic Knights of Pythias building. By pure coincidence, that was the same space that had housed Tom Young's Charing Cross bookstore until Tom's disappearance. Keith opened a modest antique shop in the space, selling old knickknacks to tourists just to have something to do and maybe make a few bucks during his stay. He also rented a tiny apartment in the back of an old abandoned church in town to live in, adding to the whole offbeat experience. During the days, if he wasn't minding his antique store, you'd find Keith pecking away at his laptop or typewriter. Accounts differ, but he was writing, trying to kickstart his novel or hiking the local trails for inspiration. By evenings, he'd have dinner at Ted's Cafe or hang out with locals, soaking in all of the local lore. It didn't take long for Tom Young's disappearance to come to Keith's attention. In a town of, at that time, barely 200 people, last year's mystery was still on everyone's mind. And remember, when Keith got there, no one knew what happened to Tom. Keith was immediately intrigued. Here he was, living in the missing man's shop, surrounded by the ghost of a story. Keith began asking around about Tom, what people had heard, what did they think happened. He spoke with anyone who knew Tom or remembered the events of September 87. As a journalist and aspiring novelist, Keith found this mystery irresistible. Soon, he became obsessed with the case. He even abandoned the fiction novel idea he'd originally had, deciding instead to write a novel based on Tom Young's disappearance. He created a protagonist named Guy Gypsum, a character he described as a composite of himself mixed with Tom. In Keith's mind, his novel would explore what might have happened to a man like Tom and perhaps, just perhaps, solve this riddle, even in a fictional way. Friends later said Keith talked about Tom constantly. He couldn't let it go. His daughter Tiffany back home even noticed in phone calls that all her dad wanted to discuss was this missing man in Colorado. Tiffany would later say that as a writer, her father liked to, quote, live the story he was writing, really experience it. She wondered, half seriously, if maybe her father wanted to feel what it was like to disappear, just like Tom did, so he could write about it authentically. It sounds far-fetched, but Keith was truly immersing himself in this strange mystery. For weeks, Keith juggled running the antique store, scribbling down plot ideas inspired by Tom's life, and taking short hikes to try to overcome his fear of heights. But by late July 1988, that's when our situation took a dramatic turn, and Tom Young's remains were found on that mountainside. The day the news broke that Tom and Gus had been discovered dead must have hit Keith hard. On one hand, it confirmed Tom's fate, perhaps giving Keith's novel an ending he hadn't expected. On the other hand, the way Tom died only raised more questions for Keith. In fact, Keith did not believe that Tom's death was as simple as police were making it. He voiced to friends that he thought something far more nefarious had happened to Tom. This conviction seemed to energize him even more to get to the truth. Around August 3rd, 1988, a few days after Tom's body was recovered, that's when they had the memorial gathering for Tom, and Keith attended. Shortly before this memorial, Keith had a phone call with a former colleague back in Chicago about possibly returning to his old job at the newspaper. Keith mentioned he was interested in a sports editor position that might be opening up. So in other words, Keith was considering the future. He had his wife, his kids, he had a job that he was applying for. It's not like he had completely abandoned thoughts of going home and going back to normal life. This is important because it complicates some of the theories about what happens next. Now comes the fateful day. On August 7th, 1988, exactly 11 months after Tom Young vanished, Keith Reinhard decided to do something that, in hindsight, seems ominously symbolic. He announced he was going to climb Pendleton Mountain, which is roughly 12,500-foot peak that looms right above Silver Plume. Pendleton Mountain is a steep, challenging hike even for the most well-prepared people, and Keith was not an experienced mountaineer. Like we said, he has this fear of heights. He also was known to experience vertigo, so hiking up this massive cliff essentially seemed insane to people that knew him. He had tried hiking partway up Pendleton once before during his stay and had ended up turning back. It was just too much for him. So when Keith spent the Sunday afternoon of August 7th going around town cheerfully telling people his plan to reach the summit, most people thought he was joking. Keith closed his antique shop early, around 2:30 p.m. that day. Witnesses recall seeing him strolling through the streets, stopping to chat with neighbors and acquaintances, saying things like, "I'm going to climb up to the top of that mountain today." This was odd right off the bat because it was already late afternoon. He didn't even close his store till 2:30. Usually you'd start a serious hike at dawn, and even then you wouldn't get back until evening. Keith had no hiking gear with him. He was last seen wearing jeans, tennis shoes, and a flannel shirt. No backpack, no jacket, no provisions for a cold, long trek up a mountain, that would take most people 6 hours minimum round trip. It almost seemed like he was doing it on a whim or as some dramatic gesture.
That's surprising, especially if he already tried to do it once
Mm-hmm.
and would know how hard it was going into this.
Yeah. And wasn't packing
Yeah.
anything to be more prepared.
Yes.
Yeah. Around 4 p.m. So again, 6 hours. He still hasn't left. And that's for experienced hikers. So around 4 p.m., Keith stopped into Ted Parker's cafe, which was his friend's place, one last time. Ted was there, and Keith cheerfully told him, "I'm going to make it to the top of Pendleton today. If I'm not back by evening, call the rescue team." And he said this with a laugh. Ted chuckled and basically thought, "Yeah, right, Keith." He later recalled Keith pointing towards the mountain with a grin and then saying goodbye. That casual, joking, "call rescue if I don't return" line, not registering as anything serious. That is the last conversation that anyone ever had with Keith Reinhard. At around 4:30 p.m. on August 7th, multiple witnesses saw Keith walking out of Silver Plume, heading west towards the trailheads that led up Pendleton Mountain. The sun would have been dipping already behind the ridges. Keith was alone, as always, just wearing that flannel shirt, jeans, and carrying little to nothing, depending on which witness you ask. He disappeared up the path and has never been seen again. When night fell and Keith didn't return, at first no one panicked. A couple of friends thought maybe he had decided to camp up high, although remember, he hadn't brought camping gear. But by the next morning, when Keith still hadn't shown up in town, Ted knew something was wrong and alerted authorities. And thus began one of the largest search and rescue missions in Colorado history up to that time. The hunt for Keith was massive. Helicopters and planes buzzed over the mountain, while over 125 volunteers and trained alpine rescue members scoured the slopes on foot and with dogs. For an entire week, from August 8th through August 14th, the mountains echoed with the shouts of search teams, the whir of chopper blades. Rescuers described the area as 3,000 vertical feet of 60-degree slope.
Oof,
Intense.
that's a lot.
Yeah. Essentially like searching for a needle in a haystack, but that haystack is made of rocks, thick forests, and dangerous terrain. They had never failed to find a missing person in 30 years of operation until now.
Wow. How do you just disappear?
I don't know.
It's like, I mean, I get there's like forests and stuff, but I mean, if you're searching for a week and you've got that many people, like it just seems like you have to find something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Plus helicopters.
Unless he walked that direction and then went somewhere else. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wanted to just disappear and wanted people to think he was on the mountain.
Yeah, that's possible. Or someone made him disappear.
Or that.
But it does seem odd that they started the search the next day and
Mhm.
couldn't find anything.
Mhm.
Because unless you completely fell off, I mean, even if you got lost, they would find you.
Yeah.
And like I said, in over 30 years, they had always found whoever they were looking for. So they knew what they were doing.
Yes.
Keith left almost no clues because he hadn't carried equipment. There was nothing to drop. No footprints were found that definitively matched his. It was as if he walked into the wilderness and evaporated. As days passed with no sign of Keith, searchers grew increasingly frustrated and concerned. Then, in a cruel twist, the search itself turned deadly. On August 11th, 1988, a small Civil Air Patrol Cessna plane assisting in the operation crashed into the mountain.
Oh, awful.
Mhm.
The plane wreck killed one of the pilots, 41-year-old Terry, and seriously injured a spotter named Dawn. This tragic accident cast a pall over the already difficult mission. After recovering the crash victims, authorities had to decide how long to keep looking for Keith and at what risk. By August 12th, after a week of fruitless efforts and now one man dead in the effort, the official search for Keith was called off. It was a heartbreaking decision for everyone involved. Not only was Keith still missing, but a rescuer had paid the ultimate price while trying to find him.
That's really sad.
It is.
It's so heartbreaking. Family and friends didn't give up immediately. On their own, they continued to comb trails and canyons in the following weeks, but as summer turned to fall, hopes of finding Keith or finding him alive dwindled. And there was no trace, no clothing, no body, nothing. The only things left of Keith were back at his apartment and his shop. And among those things, his friends discovered some tantalizing, eerie hints that only deepened the mystery. Next to Keith's writing desk, they found a newspaper with the headline, quote, "Tom Young's body found." It was as if Keith had been poring over the news of Tom's case right before he left for the hike. Tom's story had been on his mind constantly, and clearly even more so after the discovery. On Keith's computer, or typewriter, they found the unfinished manuscript he'd been working on. The final lines he had written in his novel stopped everyone cold. In Keith's story, his protagonist, the guy named Guy, which is the character inspired by Tom and himself, was at a turning point. The text read, "Guy Gibson changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood it all now and his motivation. Guy closed the door, then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forests above." Keith's own character does exactly what Keith did on August 7th, put on hiking boots and a flannel. Well, he didn't put on hiking boots. He had on tennis shoes, but he did have on a flannel shirt and walked off into the Colorado wilderness. The wording even evokes the shadowless forests. And remember, Silver Plume's mountains have that dark, shadowed side. It was a chilling moment of life connecting with art. Did Keith effectively write his own disappearance? Or did he decide to make fiction into reality? At the very least, it showed that Keith's mind was deeply intertwined with Tom Young's fate and the idea of vanishing into the mountains. In the aftermath, Keith's wife, Carolyn, and their children were left in this agonizing limbo. Keith was eventually declared legally dead in absentia in the 1990s as years passed with no sign of him.
Wow. It's crazy. It's always crazy to me when people just disappear like that.
Yeah.
Especially for that long. Because I feel like a lot of times people go missing, but then they find them and something has happened. But
right. And we're coming up on 40 years.
yeah,
Just find nothing.
They did find one thing recently, but it could have been, they found his wallet in 2021,
Oh,
but that was the only thing. And honestly, if you want to lean into the more something nefarious happened side, that could have easily been dropped by someone else because it wasn't found by any clothing, any remains.
weird.
No one knows if he even had it with him when he went hiking.
the puzzler.
Yeah.
This is just my wild imagination running. I almost feel like he may have figured out what happened to Tom or had an idea about what have happened to Tom and maybe got in contact with that person, tried to confront them or something to figure it out. And then that guy disappeared him too.
Maybe.
I don't know. That was my only thought.
That was my first thought. So, yeah.
Okay, good.
Could be. Yeah.
Not too wild, I guess.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, the timing, the days, the way that he's looking into that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is interviewing people and came upon someone and actually found who hurt Tom. I don't know.
Yeah. I wish I wish I could find reporting of notes that he had and who he had talked to and what he had found out.
Yeah.
And he didn't finish the story before he left, right?
Mm-mm.
So
You would really think he wouldn't just leave on his own if he was planning to finish it.
yeah.
Well, and you said too, he had a job that he was wanting back home and his wife and kids, and he was talking to them about getting a new job.
Right. But
Yeah.
his daughter, what she said was that he had become super fascinated with the idea of disappearing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that she said he was talking about that a lot.
About Tom, though. About what happened to Tom.
Right. But if he wanted to immerse himself, then maybe he wanted to know what that was like.
Maybe
he meant to just kind of disappear for a couple days and then come back.
Yeah.
And something happened, but I don't know.
Well, there are no answers, so all the theories are all we have.
No.
I know. Unsolved and open. His case, that's my next thought. His case remains officially unsolved and opened. Over the decades, there have been rumors, there have been alleged sightings. At one point in 1998, so 10 years later, a drifter with amnesia in Wyoming drew attention because he did resemble Keith. This raised hopes that maybe Keith had lost his memory, maybe a fall hit his head, something. But that man was identified as someone else entirely. There were no credit card uses, no bank withdrawals, nothing to indicate that Keith had ever left the mountains alive. It's as if the Rockies just swallowed him whole exactly 11 months after Tom disappeared. This story, I think, because of all the coincidences and mysteries and unsolved aspects, refuses to rest. As years went by, Silver Plume's two missing men became the stuff of local lore, a kind of ghost story you tell to newcomers or tourists, except that it's all true. People continue to be fascinated and spooked by the parallels between Tom and Keith. It inspired new investigations. A 2019 to 2020 TV documentary series called Lost in the Wild revisited the case, and a dedicated feature documentary, Dark Side of the Mountain, has been in the works for years to explore the many unanswered questions. In the course of these investigations, there have been the one new development we talked about. It was September 2021, and Keith's wallet was found on Pendleton Mountain. Two hikers shooting footage for a student film, which later turned into a documentary project, stumbled upon a weathered wallet lodged in the rocky terrain. Inside were identification cards confirming that it belonged to Keith. This is the only piece of physical evidence related to Keith to surface since 1988. So if he did lose it there, it places Keith, or at the very least something of his, on that mountain, lending weight to the idea that he did go up there and possibly met his end somewhere on those heights. But even with this clue, how did it get there? Did it come from up higher? Did he lose it and then fall? I mean, that would give them a very specific area to search.
How worn did the wallet look? Because if it's been sitting out in the elements for 40 years, it should be very sun bleached and, water damage.
All of the reporting I can find just says very worn. I mean, it looks worn. To me, it doesn't look 40 years worn.
Sitting outside.
If it was buried or something, I wonder if it would have lasted better.
But you think with the snow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even if it was buried under a rock, I still feel like it would have a ton of water damage.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And credit cards don't hold up to that.
No.
Especially back then.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they could even tell it was his. I guess maybe it was a really good wallet. Maybe we need to know that brand.
That's very true. I will look for that. Yeah. I mean, I have wallets upstairs that are 20 years old.
Yeah.
And the cards in them are falling apart or look like they're
all stuck together and you can't tell the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't even have water damage.
Yeah, they've been in my box in my room.
Exactly.
But I keep moving from house to house for some reason.
Same. But even with finding this wallet, it didn't lead to finding anything else that belonged to him. No clothes, no scraps of clothes, no body, of course, nothing. The wallet raises as many questions as it answers. For example, why wasn't it found in the original search? And how far up was it? Did someone carry it there? Someone else put it there? Did he drop it out of his pocket while he was walking? That seems unlikely.
Did he get eaten and it fell out of his pocket?
Maybe, but you would still think you would have found clothes or something.
Yeah.
Or his scent, at least. If he got eaten, there would have been blood somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And they did have search dogs up there.
Yeah.
Locals, law enforcement, journalists, everybody has all weighed in on what they think might have happened in Silver Plume. The major theories are a lot of what we've talked about. The copycat fate. The simplest and officially accepted explanation is that Tom did complete suicide and Keith, perhaps unknowingly or in some kind of disturbed state. But again, we don't have any evidence of that other than he was deeply researching that case and seemed very invested in it. There's nothing, no documented mental illness or anything. But they basically say that, Keith followed in Tom's footsteps to the same end. Tom's case, as we know, was ruled a suicide by authorities. They did find that he bought a gun, but I personally think you would buy that for protection if you were nervous about something. It doesn't have to mean that's why he bought it. They say he went to the woods and used it. Some believe that Keith, overwhelmed by his midlife crisis and his obsession with Tom's story, might have essentially been drawn into repeating Tom's fate. It's almost like the concept of, the copycat or psychological contagion. They do wonder, did Keith romanticize that idea about disappearing? Did that lead Keith to intentionally go out and either get lost or disappear in the mountain? Keith's wife and close friends very strongly disagree with this notion. They say Keith was not depressed in a clinical sense, and he had everything to live for. A loving family, he was actively making plans for the future. Indeed, in conversations and letters, Keith remained optimistic and often signed off with a, quote, PMA, which stood for positive mental attitude, encouraging others to look on the bright side. They do point to the fact that it was exactly 1 week after Tom's remains were found that could have triggered something in Keith. But again, to me, maybe he was just walking in or doing the hike to try to clear his head or get more ideas to complete his novel, or
maybe he wanted to go find where they had found Tom to see that place.
Totally.
Could have been something too if it was only a week after he was found.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to get more inspiration for his story.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't want to tell them that that's what he was doing because it was probably still fresh on everyone's mind. So maybe he just said he was going to go hike that mountain.
Yeah.
It's like you said, I mean, that's a tough hike. And he started at in the afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's not
normal.
No.
Right.
It also seems like he was planning on being back that night too, because he's like, oh, call the rescue team if I'm not back. So I wonder if he was just planning to go out for a couple hours and take a look and then been like, oh, I didn't make it. I'll try again another day or something.
Yeah. Normally, if you're going to go on that kind of hike, you would leave first thing early in the morning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be like an all-day hike.
Yeah. They said at best 6 hours.
Yeah.
So you're not at best because you haven't been doing this your whole life,
No. And that would, I mean, even if he did it at best, that's still returning at, 10:30, 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And you would need snacks, right? Something.
Extra water,
Yeah,
shoes.
Yeah, so I don't think he was actually going on the hike.
I don't really either. I think at minimum he would have had a backpack.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not new. Like he's been living there for
a few months.
Yeah.
And his time's almost up. So there's also that other aspect of it. Like, is he trying to see this, like you mentioned, before he heads back to Illinois?
Mm-hmm.
Or just see how high he can get on the mountain one last time, but not like make it to the top.
Yeah. Because he'd tried before. Do you know when he tried the first time, what he took with him?
I do not.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
He would at least take the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So if he had taken a backpack and things like that before,
and
he would at least take that again.
Or if he hadn't, no, okay, I need some water next time.
Right. Because he didn't make it the first time. Be like, okay, next time if I'm actually trying this, food, daylight that's longer than several hours.
I get the feeling that the other ones were out exploring or hiking up a little bit and coming back. It was never, at least from what I've read, it never seemed like he was actually trying to make it to the very top any of those times. He was just seeing if he could work on his vertigo and his fear of heights.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, I've climbed all these other mountains and I need to climb this one.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything like that. It's
Interesting.
just like, let me see if I can get better at my fear of heights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do wonder if he wanted to go see where they had found Tom. Was that location up on that mountain?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay.
And that's the other thing too, is why did Tom go out there that night? I mean, if he specifically was choosing to do that, okay, but why there? Why under a tarp? I don't know.
Mm-mm. I was like, maybe there's some person who lives out there
Mm-hmm.
and Tom happened upon them and they murdered him.
Yes, possible.
And then maybe Keith was thinking along those lines to go see if he could find somebody living out there in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Maybe.
And maybe that's why he wanted to go look in that area and see if he could find any signs of someone living out there who would have done that to Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone like the Unabomber living in a remote place out, in the middle of nowhere by himself.
I mean, we did at the beginning talk about all the little houses that had existed there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Someone could have been hiding out there that they didn't know about.
Maybe hiding from the law, on the run, something.
Yeah.
And you come upon him.
It's Robert Fisher.
Yeah, totally.
No, that was before his time. But yeah, it could be someone just living out there, hiding from whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Tom came upon him and Keith was out looking in the same area and maybe they need, but you would think that they would find something like that if they're searching that whole area too.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're not looking in every house or they moved on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but then Keith wouldn't meet the same fate.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I do feel like they were looking for Tom after he disappeared.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as
grand scale.
Yes, and not as focused in the same area. And whether that was because we were into October and it was too far in, or it had been too long since he had last been seen, maybe.
Maybe
they didn't look out there. I don't know.
If that person was found by two separate people, Tom and Keith, that may have been motivation to up and leave, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have taken Keith with them.
Mm-hmm. Or disappeared him and then left after to avoid being
well, if
found
they had
again.
Killed him and took him and hid him somewhere else, so people weren't looking for him there, wherever they dropped him.
Yeah.
Because you would think that they might look on the mountain for him.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone did something to him and buried him somewhere else where they weren't searching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but
none of this makes sense.
I was just thinking, like, that is such a huge coincidence.
Yeah.
But there is that aspect of, like, if you had already researched and talked to people and found out what happened to Tom, and then you were trying to dig into that more to solve it, that makes these coincidences make more sense to me. But I don't know.
I don't know either, especially with that grand scale of search that close to when he disappeared.
Right. Starting the next day.
Yeah. I feel like if something had happened to him on that mountain, they would have found him.
Agreed. That's what I can't shake. And maybe it really just is that many places to look.
Maybe.
And impossible. I don't know. But then when you find the wallet, you would think he would have had to have been around there. You would find something.
Yeah.
And how did they not find the wallet for 35 years?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Me either.
I tried to pull up pictures of his wallet and can't find any online.
There's not a lot
of
information.
The only thing I was thinking with the wallet was if it had been higher up and like had been over the years frozen, and then maybe this year it had come down with water or something.
That's true too.
So then, like, if it got kind of washed out from where it was,
or even like an avalanche.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be too.
Rock slide kind of a thing.
Yeah. And now it was findable.
yeah.
Yeah. There are other people that have the school of thought that, it's Occam's razor. If something happens, the simplest explanation is usually what it is. So in that line of thought, they're saying, Keith decided to go hike the mountain. He either fell or something happened with wildlife and they just weren't able to find him, which is, what the sheriff's department and a lot of investigators tend to look at and think happened. Other people think that Keith's vanishing was not an accident at all, but a planned escape. I'm not exactly sure why he wouldn't have finished his book first, which kind of sticks with me, but maybe inspired by the novel he was working on, Keith might have decided to write himself a new life and vanished on purpose, turning 50. But I feel like lots of people turn 50. I don't know. They say maybe he still felt stuck or disillusioned and, moving to Colorado wasn't everything he dreamed of, wasn't helping reset him to a good place to head back. He had also reportedly shown interest in places like West Virginia. He talked about traveling there. He attended a party on August 6th, so the day before he disappeared. And he spent a long time talking to a, quote, unidentified woman known only as Greta or Gretchen from Denver. Some posit that maybe Keith left with her or arranged for her to pick him up. The deliberate disappearance theory imagines that Keith stashed supplies somewhere, telling everyone he's hiking, so they'd assume an accident, and then slipping away to start fresh under a new identity. It doesn't feel like he had access to a lot of money, though, and like I said, his credit cards, bank accounts, none of it was ever touched again. But that is an interesting aspect of this.
Did they ever question her?
I'm not sure they were ever able to find her. No one really knew much about her.
Interesting.
They didn't even know her for sure name.
He was running an antique store. If he was taking cash for certain things and had cash on hand. I don't know.
That's true.
I would be interested to see how those books looked compared to money that was found there, inventory. Was there money found there?
I mean, he could have taken antiques and sold them too.
Yeah, if you had smaller things like jewelry or...
Just take them to a pawn shop, get cash.
Mm-hmm. At least some money, but it's not a lot.
No.
And then what do you do for work?
I don't know.
Run an antique shop, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe Greta had a lot of money.
Yeah, maybe. It is interesting.
But it didn't seem like his wife had any thoughts about that.
No, she very much said something happened to him.
Yeah.
And whether it was on the mountain or foul play, some kind of connection, maybe the storefront. Maybe he found things in the store that Tom had been stashing, saving notes. I mean, it was a bookstore before. Maybe he found more clues that he wasn't supposed to find. Documents, evidence, things like that.
Maybe.
Very possible. Some theorists also suggest that both men stumbled on the same secret. So maybe Tom had found something out he wasn't supposed to. Then being in the same location, Keith found that out and put both of them in danger.
Maybe the store was a front.
Maybe. Entirely possible. In the 1990s, an author named Mike Eckel and later others floated a theory that Silver Plume was the site of illegal radioactive waste dumping. As wild as that sounds, here's the story. Silver Plume is really not far from Golden, Colorado, home to the former Rocky Flats nuclear weapons plant. In the 80s, Rocky Flats was producing plutonium triggers for nukes and had a lot of toxic waste. According to these rumors, some unscrupulous contractors or government agents might have quietly disposed of radioactive waste by trucking it to old mine shafts around Silver Plume and just tossing it in. One local even reported seeing large trucks driving up a dead-end mountain road in the middle of the night on several occasions. The theory goes that Tom Young, who was known as a bit of a local political activist, got wind of this and was considering blowing the whistle. Indeed, Mike Eckel wrote that his auto mechanic confided in Tom Young about the suspicious trucks, basically tipping Tom off to a potential environmental crime. If true, this gives a concrete motive. Maybe someone involved in the dumping thought Tom knew too much. Could Tom have been silenced in that way? And then could Keith, by digging into Tom's disappearance, have also poked the bear, so to speak? It's noteworthy that in Keith's final days, he publicly stated he believed Tom's death was not a suicide. If Keith uncovered hints of a cover-up, say he read Tom's notes or talked to the same mechanic or people that Mike Eckel did, he might have approached the truth and thereby put himself in danger. The nuclear waste angle got enough attention that when the Travel Channel's Lost in the Wild did an episode on this case, the hosts actually ventured into some old mine shafts with Geiger counters that read radiation. They reportedly detected unusually high radiation in one abandoned mine, which could support the dumping theory, although Colorado's mountains naturally do contain uranium and other radioactive minerals, so it's not definitive. But the idea of a deadly conspiracy in a ghost town is alluring.
Could he have gone into a mine and they couldn't find him?
That is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he went to look for something like that.
Yeah.
If he followed like the abandoned road that they were talking about and went to look in there and fell in the mine or something happened in there, he could have been lost in a mine.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Really good idea.
How about his wallet ending up somewhere else?
He dropped it before that.
Maybe.
He could have also just gotten lost inside of the mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he didn't know where he was going and it was dark and he didn't really have supplies, he could have just gotten turned around and...
Or if he like fell and got hurt and then couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's sad to think about.
Yeah.
There are other foul play scenarios. One law enforcement officer, his name is Lieutenant Steve Gramillion, was asked years later if a serial killer might have been operating around Silver Plume. His reply was chilling. He said, I mean, we have found a couple of skulls up in Silver Plume in the last few years.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then.
That's what I was saying. The person living out off the grid.
Yeah.
Both of them find him. The other thing I was thinking, though,
Or he finds both of them.
yeah.
While they're out wandering around.
The other thing, too, I was thinking, because there's probably bears in the mountain. If he had gone into a mine and got lost, if a bear went in and found his clothes,
Yeah.
he could have taken his pants or something with the wallet in them and dropped it on the mountain somewhere.
That is true.
But then it would have probably been better preserved, too, if it's down in a
Had been
mine
down there,
and not
yeah.
exposed to the weather.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe he had beef jerky in the pocket.
Maybe.
Possible.
Something found it years later.
I wonder if they did explore any mines.
I need to look into that. I didn't see it in the reporting. It seemed more like they were covering
The hiking.
the hiking places,
Yeah.
but the surrounding areas, and that is the surrounding area,
Yeah.
but I'm not for sure.
But yeah, I would think that they would focus more on where he said he was going, which was hiking the mountain, not exploring mines somewhere.
Right.
And maybe he said that as a cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no one would be suspicious of him trying to find something like that.
or
Looking around.
if he was worried about people
Maybe they should
coming
search
after
the mines.
him if he was, exactly. They should.
Maybe our podcast will solve a murder. Just kidding.
I don't want to go into those mines.
I don't want to. Not me.
Oh,
Not us.
okay.
Oh,
I was
she's
like, I
saying
don't.
that
Our
someone
words
hears
may
about it.
inspire
Yeah,
somebody
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
to go
Our
search that
ideas.
for us.
Yes.
This is not a
Not
crime
alone.
clueless in the wild.
And no, that's more haunted cheeseburgers. I don't know.
Yes. That's what I want. I want those haunted hamburgers now.
Yeah, we need to go there.
It's closer to you than it was from my house, I think. We'll shave off 45 minutes.
There you go. The investigator that had answered that question said that he couldn't provide details because they were active investigations, but he did confirm that none of the skulls found belonged to Keith. So that does suggest at least a few other people have died or been killed in those mountains in recent decades. Could it be random, hikers who died, or older remains from way back when? Possibly. But it also leaves room for the theory that a killer targeted certain either vulnerable or
Hikers
solitary men. Yeah. Yep.
out alone.
In the area, exactly. Which could explain why Keith's body was never found. And to be clear, there is zero direct evidence of a serial killer. We're just talking about all the theories that have been
Thrown out there.
provided over the years. Yes. So now it's been close to 40 years. Silver Plume's mystery remains unsolved and it continues to fascinate and frighten. In the years since these events, Silver Plume hasn't had much else in the way of news. The town still sits quietly in the canyon, a whistle stop on the highway, its population maybe a little above or below 200. But ask anyone there about Tom Young or Keith Reinhard, and they'll know exactly what you mean. It's become part of the town's identity, a modern folk tale etched in the walls of that old bookstore and whispered about over coffee at the Silver Plume Cafe. It's the kind of story that makes you look up at those mysterious mountains and wonder what other secrets they're keeping. As of today, the cases of Tom Young and Keith Reinhard remain unsolved, although Tom Young's case is officially closed. Perhaps one day someone will stumble upon a clue that brings closure to this chilling tale, but until then, it stands as one of Colorado's most baffling mysteries. A cautionary and captivating tale that truly feels like you're sitting around a campfire with a friend, shaking your head and saying, "You're not going to believe this, but every word is true." So what do you guys think?
Very interesting.
There's
Lots
too
of
many
questions.
theories.
Yeah.
You say there's too many theories?
Yeah.
That seem plausible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think he's in a mine somewhere.
Yeah. I feel like that seems
Possible.
like the most logical thing. I don't know. I hope there's not a serial killer picking off hikers in the woods.
I know, right? I want to find information on those other things that the lieutenant was talking about.
Yeah.
I want to know if they searched
Mhm.
those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Got a list of questions to dig into now.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do they have a tip line? Can you send a tip?
Not that I found. I don't know if it's because they've not closed the case, but kind of officially given it their very logical surface explanation and moving on to other things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you could call Silver Plume.
Not me.
Someone, if someone has a tip, they could.
Yes.
They would know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Too many questions, though.
Yeah.
I know. It's very mysterious. The dates are very interesting, coincidental, the location, the similarities between the two. That's kind of what drew me in, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do feel like it's what you said, that maybe they both stumbled onto something that they weren't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom could have gone out hiking with his gun just for protection.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they never definitively said that that bullet came from his gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even someone could have taken it from him and
Yeah.
shot him with it and his dog. He could have been out hiking and he was looking for something, maybe the same thing Keith was looking for, and people were
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because, I
Interesting.
mean, too, even if somebody else shot him with their own gun, they could still fire his gun twice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
But if people are
I
like
know.
doing illegal things, dumping things on the mountain, they would probably have weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I mean, even just to fend off bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think they both found something, but
yeah, that's kind of what I lean towards. I don't know.
I don't know either. The wallet thing makes it weird.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
To find that 35 years later is crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder how far the wallet was, how like far up on the mountain it was.
I'll look for that. I'm not sure if they brought it down with them.
They might have. They're like, oh, we
Because
found
there's
this.
Not like a and it wasn't for like the documentary on Keith. It was a separate student project.
Yeah.
And so they might have had no idea.
They just
that
found it
was
and picked
someone
it up.
missing. Yeah.
It probably
Mhm.
looked very worn, but they could have thought it was someone in town, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I could talk about this all day. So, for you listening, tell us what you think. Tell us which theory you think. Tell us what we're missing or what you think might be the right answer. You can send us an email, crimeclueless@gmail.com, or connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just search for @crimeclueless. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd be ever so grateful if you would leave us a rating. Scroll down on Apple, do it at the top on Spotify, just click the stars. We're so grateful for every rating that we've gotten so far. If you're looking for the resources that we used to create this episode, or you just want to learn more about this wild tale, you can find all of those on our website, crimeclueless.com. Under the blog section, we've got information on every case that we've ever covered. If you liked this episode and want to chat about it with someone in real life, you can share Crime Clueless. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, iHeart, and all major streaming platforms.
Yeah, have your besties listen so you can discuss it together.
Yes. This definitely needs someone to discuss it with. Absolutely.
And then tell us what you decided.
Yes.
Because I'm curious what your thoughts are. All right. Thank you again for listening. And as always, remember, refuse to be clueless, careless, or caught off guard.
Not today, murderers.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.